Okay, this is our vocab video for our World War I unit. We have 3 standards to cover, 9, 10, and 11, as you see here, 9, 10, and 11. Let's just start with 9. Select examples of advancements in technology, communication, and transportation, and explain how some have improved lives and others have had negative consequences. Okay, so there's 2 things to talk about here. On one hand, technology makes life more convenient, makes it easier to communicate, it makes it easier to travel to new places, it makes it easier to grow crops. But on the other hand, we have major downsides, and the major downsides come in warfare. So we see this mechanized warfare. So that is really new technology from the Industrial Revolution that changes the way people do war, and I have examples of this. New technology from Industrial Revolution that changed warfare. It makes it much more deadly, is really the short thing. So the first big one is tanks, as you see here. The next one are flamethrowers, and you're going to see why these things become necessary as well. Poison gas, tracer bullets, interrupter gear, depth charges, hydrophones, aircraft carriers. This one's too much by then. This one is obviously not used at all. But you see, this is the first major war where we see people using these new mechanized sorts of technology to kill other people with the same technology. So the death toll in World War I was just unbelievably high compared to wars that came prior. Now, tanks are another major advancement of this war. They had to make tanks because that was the only way to get past this area right here called no man's land. You see a picture of trench warfare here. This is another characteristic of World War I. But to get past no man's land, they had to create this machinery that could get through this really dangerous spot where there would be mines, possibly. There would be people firing at people here in this region. So they had to figure out a way to get there. So they made tanks, and they were a new technology that helped get past no man's land. Okay. Also, we're going to do a project on World War I propaganda, and this is just sort of advertisements for joining the armed forces or advertisements promoting nationalism. This is really important to World War I because they need a whole bunch of people. Because the death toll is so high, that means you have to have a lot of people that are willing to go into these terrible situations. So here's an actual picture of no man's land, and what you're going to see is you see some soldiers sleeping here. You see how you step up, and up here is where you would fire. And it's just dirt, so you can imagine that if a big rainstorm came, these would not be the friendliest of conditions. So it's a really horrid place to be, and you have to face gas, possibly being thrown into your trench. You have to face all sorts of obstacles that are going to really make this a difficult place to be, and they need a lot of troops to do this as well. It's a really terrible way of doing war, and not that there's a good way, but this way is particularly horrible. Alright, so that's our 3 main little pieces of vocab for standard number 9 here. Now we are on standard number 10. Explain how militarism, imperialism, nationalism, and alliances were causes of World War I. So these right here, they make a nice acronym for us, MAIN. So it's easy to remember, MAIN. The main causes of World War I were militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. We could say militarism is the buildup of military and desire to use it. We could say alliances are agreements see my terrible spelling in this form. Agreements between nations to fight for each other in the case of war. We can say imperialism, we just spent a whole unit on that, is a large country taking a small country. Let's change that. Let's say a powerful taking a less powerful for raw materials and markets. And nationalism is pride in one's country. So, these four things. Militarism, this one's obvious. Why would that? Because these gigantic armies with new machine guns, new bombs, new planes, all these things, they've been building them for years and years. They've used them on less powerful countries. Now they're going to use them against each other. So the powerful countries are going to face or turn the machine guns towards each other. Alliances, as we played in our game in class, you guys had to make alliances, and then that just meant when one domino fell, the rest fell as well. So all the countries go to war because one country goes to war. One country has an agreement with another, and then another has an agreement with that one, and so on and so forth. The next thing you know, there's a world war. Imperialism is less obvious, but if you think about it, it's not too bad. You know that all of the European powers participated in this practice of imperialism. So if you know that, then you know that they've been competing for years and years, and there's a bit of animosity between the two. And nationalism is simply pride in your country. So if you have a lot of pride in your country, then that equals a bit of cockiness. So if you're a little bit cocky about your country, then you're going to want to see your country beat other countries. It's just the way of the world almost. Okay, so let's look at a map here. I remember there was a good one. Here we go. So we have a map, and this is the Triple Alliance: Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. And then we have a Triple Entente here, and that's the other three: Britain, France, and Russia. It's not so simple because what we see is Germany attacks Belgium, and that brings Britain into the war. So not necessarily the result of Britain attacking France or Germany attacking France. So it's not so simple, but that is essentially what happens. Let's see here. This is another good map for us. We can talk about how Austria-Hungary goes after Serbia after Archduke Ferdinand's killed. That means that Russia comes into the war because they have an alliance with Serbia. Germany has an alliance with Austria-Hungary, so they go to war with Russia. Russia has an alliance with France, so they go to war with Germany. Belgium has an alliance with the United Kingdom, so when Germany tries to go through Belgium to get to France, that brings in the United Kingdom. Before you know it, we have a world war. So that's how it starts. So these are the things that caused it. Militarism, imperialism, nationalism, and alliances were the cause of World War I. These two things, 1 and 2, fit right there with number 4. So we could really do this. We could cut these out here and paste them here. And we could say these are subpoints of alliances, right? Because these are the different alliances that we see.